Gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. We'll determine if a quorum is present. I am present. Councilmember Jeff Perry is present. Councilmember Matt Jones is present. Councilmember Aaron Allen is present. Councilmember Randy Jones is present. Councilmember Chuck Fox is present. Invocation and pledge of allegiance. We have Eli Fullen here. Yeah, up to the vote.
Pray with me. Lord, we thank you so much for this opportunity to be here today. And God, we just ask that as things are discussed today, that you would give these folks wisdom and discernment, Lord, that only you can give. We know that there are many matters in our town that are up for debate and need to be decided, God, but we know that you're calling us ultimately to glorify you with all that we do. And so, God, I pray that that's what would happen here tonight. I pray that those in leadership would lead with humility and with a servant's heart, as you have modeled for us. And God, we ask that the things that happen in our town going forward would just be for the good of your people and for those that you love. Lord, we ask that you would just help each and every person on the city council and that serves our town so faithfully, just to be blessed for their efforts, God. And we ask that you would help all those in attendance tonight and that have maybe concerns or matters of business tonight to be assured of your presence with them as this meeting continues, God. And we are grateful for our little town, and we just pray that as it becomes not so little anymore, that you would just remain with us and keep your presence here among us. And that we just might be a place that is a shining light in a city on a hill for you. And God, we're grateful for the opportunity to be here tonight. And we just ask that you would be with us as we continue. So in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Appreciate it.
Davis was born and raised. Gain experience and knowledge. In August 2021, she attended Texoma Regional Police Academy in Denison, Texas. And in May of 2022, she graduated and was valedictorian of her class. In June of 2022, she began her law enforcement career as a police officer at Little Elm Police Department. While employed at Little Elm, she received a life-saving award. Officer Davis stated, "Being hired by Aubrey Police Department has always been a dream of mine, as I always wanted to be a police officer in my hometown. It is such an honor to be given the opportunity to serve and protect the citizens of Aubrey. And tonight I'd like to welcome Officer Jada Davis to her family." Congratulations.
I, James Davis,
I, Jada Davis,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of police officer
of police officer
of the city of Aubrey,
of the city of Auburn,
and will do and will, to the best of my ability,
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
will preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution,
and laws
the laws
of the United States,
of the United States,
the state of Texas,
the state of Texas,
and the city of Auburn,
the city of Auburn,
so help me God.
so help me God.
And Officer Davis badge pinning will be by her son Miles. The picture. Hey, Miles. Hey, Miles. And the last thing is I want to present with this book. It's called Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement. This book is a key component in any law officer's career and the family of her. So I encourage you to read this book. Periodically go back to it and read it. Have your mom read it. Have your son read it when he's reading. It's a very good book. This will help you throughout. Congratulations. Welcome to the company. Thank you. I also have another presentation. Tonight, we're honored to recognize one of our former reserve police officers, David Epler. David graduated from Collin County Law Enforcement Academy, class number 76. In 2012, he was sworn in as a reserve for the Aubrey Police Department. For the next 11 years, David selflessly served the citizens of Aubrey and Providence Village, worked well over 1,500 hours as a reserve officer for Aubrey Police Department. And he did this while working full-time, demanding job with the Environmental Protection Agency. David, on behalf of Mayor Rich, the entire city council, the police department, the citizens of Aubrey, and our partner communities, please accept this token of our appreciation for your years of dedicated service. And I'd like to say thank you.
Thank you.
These are the badges that you wore, the patches, and your name. Thank you very much.
Water, you got fire board? Yeah.
I'm just guessing, but I think Miles likes fire trucks, so I think we might call dibs on him later on in his life. Him to come to work at the fire department. So tonight, I'd like to recognize the outstanding work of one of our crews. At approximately 1 a.m. on Friday, July 7th, Medic 522 and Engine 522 were dispatched to a CPR in progress. On arrival, they found a 37-year-old female lying on the floor next to her bed. The patient was pulseless and apneic, not breathing, and in a very dire medical situation. The crew went to work. They delivered a shock to her heart and did a lot of other medical interventions. And prior to leaving the scene, the patient was already beginning to improve. So she had regained a pulse, was beginning to move spontaneously. They continued care, transported her to an area hospital, and delivered her there with a pulse. We followed up with THR Frisco and are happy to find out that the patient has made a full recovery with no mental deficit from the event and is doing quite well. And so these things happen a lot, and it's important to point out the wins. We don't always win. Sometimes we get there a little late. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. But every once in a while it does. And it's tremendous. It takes the entire team to make that happen. The crew, we've got most of the crew that was there here tonight. So firefighter Chase Martin. Come on up, Chase. Firefighter paramedic Chase McClurg. Firefighter paramedic Colin Gould. Captain paramedic Ryan Chalk, he's training this week, so he's not here. And firefighter EMT Sam Davis. And as a great side note, and it's a bit early, but Chase and Sam made a call earlier today, and it appears that they've got another save from earlier today. So great work from this crew. They put in great work every single day, but this one's extra special, and so we'd love to recognize them. So if we could do a picture, Mayor, with y'all. I do have one more comment to make. We did, as a department, receive an award recently. So from the American Heart Association, the Mission Lifeline, we've been designated and have received the Silver Award. And what that means is it's an award given out to agencies based on how well they follow the most up-to-date evidence-based treatments for cardiac care. And so we received the Silver Level Award this year. And the only reason it wasn't gold is that you can't get gold in your first year of participation. So because we changed our license, it's technically our first year as an organization. So we got the silver, and next year I'll be back to tell you about the gold award that we received. So very happy to get that. And again, that goes back to the hard work that the crews do every single day, protecting our citizens and guests. Thank you.
Do we have any other community announcements? Peanut Festival in October.
First Saturday, yes, sir. Peanut Festival, first Saturday in October. We still have a few booths left, but I don't know how many. It's very few. So if you want to get one, it's time to go.
Citizen input. Persons wishing to address the council may speak during this item or wait until a posted agenda item is open for public comment. After being recognized by the mayor, persons who are physically present must step to the podium, state their name and address, and speak directly into the microphone. Online participants wishing to speak must use the raise hand function to be recognized, provide their name and address, and then speak directly into their microphone. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes unless a translator is needed. We have Ms. Hargrove.
I have some documents written up of things that are gonna go longer than 3 minutes, so I will keep it short and abide by the rules, but would y'all like to have a copy of this?
Sure.
No, thank you. Right, here you go. Thank you.
Don't worry, your 3 minutes hasn't started yet.
Yeah, we can share.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Susan Hargrove. I live at 6489 McNatt Road. I am in the Aubrey ETJ, but I felt it was important for me to be here tonight and speak on things that concern me. We lived there 26 years, moved here in 1997. My husband's retired from UT Dallas. We moved here with my mother-in-law and my 4 horses. I have worked at Aubrey ISD, Pilot Point ISD, UNT Denton, and also 5 years with FEMA. We are in the ETJ, but my concerns about zoning this property, the noise and the traffic is going to affect my family. I'm here to express concerns at another banquet coming to the city of Aubrey. How's that going to benefit the citizens when there's so many? There's 14 established ones, made a list for y'all. And within a 3-mile stretch on Farm Road 428, there will be 5 operating venues within a year's time. I'm aware of the developments. My concerns reflect around the environment, noise, pollution, and trash, removal of giant trees that are being ripped out. Pine oak trees are the endangered species for the state of Texas. I learned about a changing waterway on 1385. A natural beaver dam was totally bulldozed for development. And I'm concerned. The traffic lack of well-organized roadways and all is a main concern. The vehicles raise pollution risks, and one of the lanes on 428 is a 1-lane road. I've seen numerous accidents there with these multiple trucks and construction folks coming in. It's only getting worse. As a matter of fact, case in point, Cindy Benson was traveling southbound on 377 when a rock hauler in front of her started to lose his gravel load. He had not locked the back gates of his truck. Came off, the blocks came off a little bit, then they came off more, then they slid off, causing a huge dust pile in the middle of the road, halting traffic. Luckily, she was not injured. It did not result in an accident. The truck driver got out, fixed his gate, and went on his way. And by the way, she's fine. Nobody stopped to check on her. And I know the outer loop is coming quickly, and that's only going to increase the dangerous number of construction vehicles on Spring Hill Road. And the road expansion for us is many years away. I'm concerned about our emergency medical services. They're experiencing delays reaching true medical emergencies. I witnessed this on 1385 with a woman laying on the side of the road. In addition, wedding venues are within 3.0 miles of each other. It's dangerous that we could have more alcohol-related accidents for the city of Aubrey. The one nearest my home, I've called even the Denton County Sheriff for loud noises, and they tell us there's nothing they can do. I heard they have no licensing, no liquor licensing, but the sheriff said there's nothing they can do. The last couple of years, I've watched as ranchers sell out because of the developments. 1 4th generation Aubrey resident gave up her grandfather's land. And the 2 questions I have for y'all is, how does another wedding venue benefit the citizens of Aubrey? Does Aubrey have on board a city planning engineer and who will oversee the development of these new communities? And in closing, Aubrey's my home. I've been here long enough. I love it. I was here before the lights were there on 428. It's a well-loved horse community. It's forever changing, and I understand that. My suggestion would be to find an alternate to use this land in question, a new fire station, because they're going to need it. That can assist with maybe Northeast Aubrey or Pilot Point, a library, a city building, a green belt or a park. Certainly, I'm not in favor of an additional wedding venue in our area. And I appreciate your time. And I appreciate your councilmen who are dedicated to preserving the quality of Aubrey's life. Thank you.
Thank you. Lee Swain.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. My name's Lee Swain. I live at 10259 Winter Haven Lane here in Aubrey. I wanted to take this time to introduce myself and my new company. It's a building plan review and inspection company. The name is Atlas Municipal Services. We've been in business since March of this year, and we have 8 municipal clients, 4 inspectors, bringing another inspector on in August. And kind of have the same sentiments with the lady here. I care about Aubrey. I live here. I can provide better customer service. I can provide these services at a reduced cost to the city. And I care about Aubrey. I have a 10-year-old daughter in the fifth, going into the fifth grade. We don't have anybody on our staff that does not have an ICC certification for an inspection that they would be assigned. Inspectors are a dying breed. We like to get involved in the community. We've sponsored ice cream trucks at events. We sponsor some dumpsters in one of our client cities for a neighborhood cleanup. We've talked about scholarships. One of the things I would like to do is if there's some programs, I've been a certified vocational instructor for 9 years. We've got to get more young people involved in the trades because everybody's not going to go to college. And some of that is starting to happen, but we want to be involved in the community. And like I said, this is a new thing. My company's name is derived from my wife and 2 daughters' initials. It's Atlas, Avery, Tiffany, Alex, Lee, Swain. I wish I could say I thought it up, but my wife, she thought that up. We could do all the electronic plan review. And the growth is coming. I think Aubrey grew at 12.8% over the last year. I'm not, I just want to help the city manage that growth. I know y'all are trying to go in-house. I would support that. And I mean, as long as we could help in certain areas or whatnot, even maybe train some younger people to kind of come on but I mean, there's so much and I didn't realize how large Aubrey's landmass is. I mean, I feel like I'm in Salina. I'm in Salina, but I feel like I'm in Aubrey. Salina's pretty huge too, but that's really all I have to say. I just want to take this opportunity to introduce myself and tell you about my services, my company. Customer service is king with us. I like to tell everybody we're bringing customer service and common sense back to building inspection. We try to provide not only customer service to our clients, but to the trades in the field. I always tell my guys to come from a place of help. You're there to be helpful. And that's just it. I live here and I want to be involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming, sir. We appreciate it.
All right, consent items. Items placed on the consent agenda are considered routine in nature and non-controversial. The consent agenda can be acted upon in one motion. Items may be removed from the consent agenda by the request of council members or staff. Consideration and action on the following. Minutes of the following city council meetings, June 22nd, 2023, and July 12th, 2023. Staff reports, monthly financial report, quarterly investment. Approval of amendment number 1 to the professional services agreement with Mead and Hunt Inc. for the wastewater treatment plant updates in an amount of $148,074 for a total project amount not to exceed $2,855,164. And authorize the mayor or his designee to execute the same. Approve change order number 2 to Wilco Underground LLC for the 24-inch sanitary sewer line project in the amount of $19,016. And authorize the mayor or his designee to execute the same. Approve a professional services agreement with the Whitehead ES LLC for the reporting and removal of an underground tank at 301 South Main in an amount not to exceed $30,000, and authorize the mayor or his designee to execute the same. And approve easement acquisition at 607 South Magnolia, 407 Spring Hill, and 409 Spring Hill for the Spring Hill Water Main Improvement Project.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Chuck, second by Jeff, all in favor? Passes 5-0. New business, new items previously requested by council members, city staff, or citizens for consideration by the council. Consideration and action on a revised preliminary plat and final plat of High Country Phase 3, being 35.810 acres situated in the James Bridge Junior Survey, abstract number 1243, Denton County, Texas, located south and east of Eek Byram Road, west of FM 2931 and the Ware Brothers Pit, north of Silverado Development and Frontier Parkway in the Aubrey ETJ.
Mr. Mayor, our planner is not yet here for the meeting tonight. I believe she is on the way. Would it be possible for you to skip to number 14 and come back?
Number 14, consideration action on ordinance regarding the 2023-2024 annual service plan. Update to the service and assessment plan for the Wind Ridge South Public Improvement District and providing an effective date.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Josh Arndt with Municap. We serve as your Public Improvement District Administrator on behalf of the city. The first report presented this evening is for the Wind Ridge South Public Improvement District. I believe this is our 5th or 6th annual update, and this is a annual requirement pursuant to Chapter 372 of the Texas Local Government Code to update the service and assessment plan. The first component to review are any changes or the status of the public improvements themselves. These improvements have been completed, so this section within the annual updates, we would anticipate remain pretty static and just memorialize those final costs that has previously been presented to council. The second component is to propose an annual budget for the upcoming assessment year, which is, as you can see, they're comprised of a few different components. Main component is principal and interest for the debt that has been issued for those assessments, excess interest to build reserves, and administrative expense components. You can see compared to last year's approved budget, our expenses are relatively flat, slightly down. Additionally, we do have a few additional dollars in credits available for this year. So our requested proposed budget for this year is $659,000 or $659,035, slightly down from last year. And here's just a quick table to show you last year's amount that property owners within this particular public improvement district received is about a $25 decrease from last year. The next component is to review the assessment methodology. Typically, that's a fairly static section as well. This is just were the method of how those are allocated changed, not necessarily the dollar amounts and things like that. There have been no changes to that methodology. This public improvement district has been fully subdivided for a few years now, so no additional subdivisions or consolidations to report since last year's annual report. We have had one property owner prepay. If you do recall, property owners within a public improvement district can prepay that principal balance at full at any time. So this particular property has satisfied their obligation and they will not receive any annual bills moving forward. So with that, we would just, pending any questions, request approval of the report and the proposed budget. Once those amounts are approved, we would work with staff to get those approved amounts over to the Denton County Tax Office to include on their property tax statement, and also work with staff to make sure that the approved report and the ordinance are filed within 7 days of approval. So happy to answer any questions.
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance 794-23. I'll second.
My Jeff, second my Chuck, all in favor? 5-0. 15, consideration and action on ordinance regarding the 2023-2024 annual service plan update to the service and assessment plan for the Jackson Ridge Public Improvement District, providing an effective date.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. This will be a very similar presentation, a little bit longer. Just there's there's about five different levies, multiple phases to just cover here with this report. But as you can see, the same items to cover: authorize improvements, review the annual budget, see how that impacts annual installments, methodology, and prepayments. So the improvements for all phases now have been completed. So with I believe last year, the 3B improvements had come online, but we had not shown them as final in the report. So each of the phase 1, the major improvements, which you may also see as phases 2 through 3, the phase 2 improvements, the 3A improvements and 3B improvements are all complete. So those sections should remain as presented in future reports. Our first budget is for phase one. And you can see here again, fairly flat from the expense component. One of the biggest differences in the actual amounts that will be billed to property owners is that increase, as you can see, in TERS credit, which is a function of the property tax, city property tax that each property owner pays. So as they would be paying more property tax, they would get the same, I believe it's 45.2% credit to reduce that annual installment. So as those home values, as we've seen, increase year on and year out, that TERS credit is going up to help contribute to keep that annual installment at a reasonable level. And you can see here the impact. We do have 2 different lot sizes in phase one. You can see, again, the goal is to keep these annual installments relatively flat year on and year out. And these do have a slight down trajectory here, which is positive. And these amounts are prior to TERS credit. The reason for that, the starting point, if you will, is built. Each 60-foot would start at $28.57 for this year's annual installment, and then their TERS credit is evaluated on a property by property basis. So that'd be a very, very long slide otherwise. But I believe most property owners are around $2,000 with their TERS credit once that's factored. For the MI improvement, you'll notice quite a substantial difference in this year's requested budget. And again, the expenses, the top half of that table, as you can see, are fairly flat. The biggest driver is that TERS credit, as phase two has proceeded to be almost completed and fully built out, but mainly phase three property owners now paying full value with property taxes. And so I would anticipate probably another sizable jump next year as 3B property owners start to come online. So that this MI, or phases 2 through 3 budget, kind of use those terms interchangeably. That incorporates all phase 2, 3A, and 3B property owners, excuse me. So that's why you'll probably see larger jumps over the next couple of years, just due to the volume of accounts. Phase 1, you probably, if property values increase, all things being equal, you'll see increases, but probably a little smaller. And again, you can see, similar to phase 1, their major improvement area annual installment is relatively flat and slightly lower than last year before the TERS credit is applied. The phase 2 requested budget, again, is very similar to the first two. The request is slightly down due to some additional reserve fund credits. That is something we started to see again this year as interest rates increased. One positive, I suppose, with that is that the funds held by the trustee earned some additional interest income, and we're able to pass some of those available dollars to help keep those annual installments relatively flat. And again, very similar, comparing last year's annual installment for phase 2 property owners versus this year. Our 3A budget, this is, I believe, maybe the only budget where there is a slight increase in the request of about $700. Otherwise, it is again still flat. And looking at the bottom portion of that table, that is due mainly to the availability of credits and available funds to apply towards that project. Everything else, the administrative expenses, are flat versus last year's budget. It's just as those fund availabilities, and we continue to monitor that. So relatively flat, $3 proposed increase, but they also would receive that major improvement area. So overall, they're still a net positive with slightly reduced versus last year. And then 3B, this is our first year of billing for 3B properties. Those bonds were issued last year, and there were funds set aside as part of that issuance process to make debt service payments and fund administrative expenses. So this is the first year that we're having to bill respective property owners for that particular levy. And then there you can see kind of the baseline annual installment for phase 3B. Again, reviewing the assessment methodology, no changes from what has been previously approved by council. For subdivisions, as I mentioned, I believe we had 3 different plats approved within area 3B that were filed and recorded in 2022. So beginning this year and in the report, we have 258 subdivided parcels that will begin receiving individual property bills for their PID assessment and other property taxes as well. Here's a quick summary as we have had prepayments. Looks like we've had 4 prepayments in phase 1 and a total of 5 prepayments. 4 prepayments as well in phase 2, which those property owners prepaid their phase 2 and major improvement area assessments. So each of those property owners would not receive any bills. Again, pending any questions, I would just request approval of the report as presented, and we'll work with staff to get the approved amounts over to the county tax office. There is one item that I just wanted to address as well. I know there has been some discussion regarding potentially refunding the phase 1, 2, and 2 through 3 bonds. If that transaction is able to close in time before the tax office would need those amounts for including bill to put those amounts on the upcoming tax statement bill, then we would want to pass those savings on to property owners this year. If that transaction closes after that window, then those savings would start next year. So, but happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, just request approval of the report.
A quick question.
Sure.
It seems across all the administrative fees, it's about $170,000, about $14,000 a month across all of these homes. What do you guys do for that? I mean, it's pretty substantial, I would say, for communities that are already built out.
Sure. So those budgets are not just Municap as your administrator. That includes roughly a $4,500 per phase fee for the trustee for their services. That includes dissemination agent fees, which is another roughly $33,000 or so per phase. There are city, some of the city staff time is incorporated in each one of those as well. So we are one component of each of those budgets, but it is for all of the district administration, not just our entity. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance 795-23.
Awesome. Motion by Jeff, second by Matt, all in favor? 5-0. Thank you. 16, Julia. Yeah. Consideration action on a resolution approving a reimbursement agreement between the city of Aubrey and Aubrey 81 West LP for Public Improvement District Number 2.
Good evening, Julie Partain, your bond counsel. So we are gearing up for the first issuance of bonds for the Keeneland PID, which is a new PID. In anticipation of that, the developer is asked to go ahead and put a reimbursement agreement in place. It's really precautionary. We intend to issue bonds, but in the event before we get the bonds issued, he were to dedicate any infrastructure to the city, we want to make sure that he could preserve his ability to get reimbursed for that. And that's what this reimbursement agreement does. It'll be taken out. It'll sort of be of no effect. Once we issue the bonds, it'll go away. But this is really just a security measure for the developer. He just wanted to make sure that he preserved his ability to get reimbursed. Obviously, if you accepted a piece of infrastructure before we levied assessments, you can't pay for something that you already own. So he would lose the ability to get reimbursed. So this is just a precautionary measure on his part. But we will be coming forth in the next month or so with bonds if everything goes well. Questions?
Mayor, I move to approve resolution 933-23.
A second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Randy. All in favor? 5-0. All right, consideration and action on a resolution determining cost of authorized improvements, calling a public hearing on the levy of assessments, providing a preliminary service on assessment plan and proposed assessment rules, and directing publication and mailing of notice of public hearing for the Aubrey Public Improvement District Number 2.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. Just to go through this item quickly, a few key components and background on this particular project. There was a development agreement executed back in December of 2021, and then the PID and TERS were created in February of 22. So there's been a little bit of time since then, and mainly due to there are 3 different parties involved in the transaction to help get the financing set. So this particular report sets the costs of those improvements. The maximum cap for those improvement costs is set at 15 million. Currently, that bond par and assessment amount is estimated to be at 14.45 million, with net proceeds of just over $12 million. With this project, there are 279 single-family residential units anticipated to be developed, comprised of 40 and 50-foot lots. One item to point out is the assessment, as I mentioned, would be about $14.5 million. The total cost of the improvements is estimated, to be about $16.49 million. So more than the par amount of the bonds. And what would this assessment look like to each property? For 50-foot lots, currently, that assessment would be about $53,691. That would be the principal amount to be repaid over the term of the PID. And the 40-foot lot of approximately $49,993. Just to give you a kind of quick context for Jackson Ridge, those assessment amounts for a 50-foot lot in Jackson Ridge was about $29,000. The reason for that is the difference in home price. So a 50-foot lot for the Keeneland community is estimated based on information provided by the developer at about $415,000. The 50-foot lots, now this is from 2015, for Jackson Ridge was $237,500. So it's a very similar, the goal was around a $3 tax rate equivalent. So very similar metric there, but just mainly due to that significant difference in the home prices from the Jackson Ridge PID to this proposed Keeneland assessment. Thank you. So there. And then again, similar to the other 2 PIDs, the bottom table, there is the far right, the projected net average annual installment per unit. Those are amounts where the TERS would reduce down to those amounts so that they would be flat for property owners each year. The first few years, they likely would not generate or may not generate based on their value enough TERS credit to hit that cap, but once they would, those would be roughly their annual amounts each year. So as part of this evening's action, what we request is approval of the cost determining resolution and the preliminary service and assessment plan, set a public hearing date, and have the document available for public viewing. And then we request that for the August meeting, as well as consideration of bond ordinance at that time. So happy to answer any questions.
To approve the resolution determining cost of authorized improvements, calling a public hearing on the levy of assessment for August 24th, 2023. Approving a preliminary service and assessment plan and proposed assessment roles, and directing publication and mailing of notice of public hearing for the Aubrey Public Improvement District Number 2 Keeneland Development.
I'll sit.
Check my check there.
Thank you.
It's actually. All right, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution determining cost of authorized improvements, calling a public hearing on the levy of assessments for August 24th, 2023. Approving a preliminary service and assessment plan and proposed assessment roles, and directing publication and mailing of notice of public hearing for the Aubrey Public Improvement District Number 1 Keeneland Development.
Is getting older. My designer lashes. I started taking Nutrafol.
Over and across US Highway 377, an existing 120-foot right of way, legally described as being in the F. Trevino survey, abstract number 1243, Denton County, Texas, and the J. Pearson survey, abstract number 1048, Denton County, Texas, Highway 377 at Concho.
Mayor and council members, if you'll remember at our last meeting, we did the first public hearing on this, but the mayor noticed a possible error in the annexation map. We had our engineers go back and look at the maps again and compare it to annexation ordinances. And what he determined is there was some overlap in two different annexation ordinances. And so he changed the map to use the ordinance that was the most likely, I don't know how to put it. We have two different ordinances. One shows the previous boundaries that we gave you, and this ordinance that we used shows a different boundary. So we went out further to make sure that we would get the entire roadway. So we switched ordinances basically to the one that was most likely to get all of the road. For lack of a better way to put that, it was an overlapping ordinance.
Jenny, what's the public meeting opening time at 6:48? Questions on the? Any input from? Public hearing?
Again, this is only the roadway. It's none of the property that surrounds it. It's just a cleanup ordinance to make sure that we had the roadway in down to the Krugerville city limits. You'll notice there's a 55-minute speed. The reason we discovered this is TxDOT found it when they did a speed study for us. And so you have a small stretch of 377 that's 55 up to Stanley. And that's why it's like that, because it wasn't annexed on their map. Thank you.
6:49. Good to go back to item number 9. Consideration action on a revised preliminary and final plat of High Country Phase 3 being 35.810 acres situated in the James Bridges survey. Abstract number 1243, Denton County, Texas, located south and east of Ike Byram Road, west of FM 2931 and the Ware Brothers Pit, north of Silverado Development, Frontier Parkway, and the Aubrey ETJ.
So I will be assisting tonight. This is LaShondra Stringfellow. I am with Messer and Ford Planning and Development Specialist. I've been working with your planner, Kate Ball, also on this item. The reason why I would like to explain the reason why we are calling it a combined preliminary plat and final plat. You all previously approved a preliminary plat for actually a larger area. The applicant came back and wanted to subdivide that area into smaller plats. And so the reason why they're coming back right now is because they're ready to file that smaller phase. And there was really no point in having them go through a separate process to do a revised preliminary plat and another final plat. So therefore, you're just seeing one combined plat, a revised preliminary plat, and a final plat. So this particular plat is actually for 181 lots, and I am going to show you. Just 1 second here. I will pull up the location. Okay, so this is the location of the phase 3. So you'll see future McNatt Road being extended here to provide access to this phase. And again, this is 181 lots. Are there any questions on this particular plat? Again, we also have Kate on the phone, who has been more involved with this case from the longer term. Staff is recommending approval for this item. And so your approval would simply include approve the preliminary final plat for this particular item that is on your agenda.
LaShondra, I was going to provide just a little bit more information if that's all right.
Definitely.
Council, Mayor, as you recall, this is phase 3 of the High Country development. The preliminary plat was extended from its expiration until November of this year. They have complied with all of the requirements to coordinate the Upper Trinity alignment. The McNatt alignment, although the McNatt alignment does not affect this phase, it'll be phase 4. But in doing that, the Upper Trinity alignment, they lost some acreage. So they had to remove some of the lots. So there'll be less lots this time going around. They are ready to move forward with it. And they've complied with everything that was required. We are asking for a conditional approval. There's a couple items that they still need to follow up with. So per Article 2, Section 1.05B, the applicant shall provide a tax certificate from the Denton County Tax Assessor Collector showing that all taxes have been paid prior to the recordation of the final plat. The second condition would be per Article 11, Appendix B, final plat checklist. The plat is missing required signatures which is recommended condition prior to the mayor's signature of the plat approval. And the last one is per chapter 10, article 2, section 1.05B 8. The applicant needs to provide confirmation from the utility providers that the location and widths of the proposed utility easements are adequate for the utility. And I believe they did that this week. I just need confirmation of it. This was presented to planning and zoning on July the second Thursday of July. And they do recommend approval. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer those.
I'll make a motion to conditionally approve the revised preliminary plat and final plat for Highland Bakery with the following conditions. 1, per Article 2, Section 105, applicant should provide a tax certificate from the Denton County Tax Assessor Collector showing that all taxes are paid prior to recognition of the final plat. 2, per Article 11, Appendix B, final plat checklist. The plat is missing required signatures, which is recommended conditions prior to the mayor's signature of the plat. And 3, per Chapter 10, Article 2, Section 105B 8. The applicant needs to provide confirmation from the utility provider that the locations of which the proposed utility easements are adequate for the utility in reference to UTRWP or the city of Boston.
Second.
By Aaron, second by Jeff, all approved. And it's gonna be a tongue twister. Consideration action on approving chapter 43, Texas Local Government Code Municipal Services Agreement between Ganesh V. Naga Shirlali. City of Aubrey for the revision of the services to be offered effective on the date of annexation and authorizing the mayor to execute.
Mayor, council, this will be a combination presentation as well. It's kind of hard for LaShondra to present virtually. I just want to give you a little background on this, and then between LaShondra and Patricia, we'll be able to move on through the other items. So this particular development agreement is for the wedding venue proposed at McNatt and Spring Hill. The owners applied for a permit, a building permit through Denton County, and Denton County submitted the ETJ verification form to the city, as we usually do when it's in the ETJ. We reached out to the owner and talked with them about annexation of the city limits. Because as you know, when it's in the ETJ, the city really has no control of what they build, period. So we were able to negotiate with them on bringing them into the city so that we could help them develop what we thought would be good for Aubrey and have all the utilities provided and the services for the city. So we've negotiated that development agreement. We'll be able to provide them water, sewer service. They'll be extending, dedicating for future right-of-way on McNatt, extending that roadway, and also dedicating right-of-way on Spring Hill for future expansion. We are aware that there are other wedding venues in the area, so we did bounce this off of our new economic development director to review. She did get a list of how many that we had and before we entered into the development agreement. But I'm going to let Tricia take over. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. So this is the first part of the next few items 10 through 13. This is a written services agreement. This is part of the annexation process. So what you have in front of you as far as a written services agreement just essentially says that the city is going to extend police, fire, water, sewer services. That's one of the conditions that must be met for annexation. As Leanne mentioned, this is an ETJ property, so the city has no control over what they do on that property. We do not control land use in the ETJ. So this, when this was presented to staff and it was a nice type of development, they decided, let's go ahead and work. And the developer was good and worked with the city to try to come up with something that addressed the concerns and was a good fit for the area. So I understand that there are concerns about, do we have too many of these? But as it sits today, that property is in the ETJ, and so we don't have any legal authority over zoning use in that area. So this is item number 10, which is the written services agreement. And then we're going to move forward on the next ones with the public hearing for the annexation. And then if that's approved, then we'll move forward with the zoning and the actual development agreement as well. So this is item number 10 that we're considering, and we'll just keep talking about the same thing for the next 4 items.
Matt?
Motion. The motion would be on the written services agreement, so it's going to be to approve or deny. If the council wants to move on and hear all of the agenda items that relate to this and then come back and circle back, that's fine. I mean, I see y'all kind
Yeah.
of, maybe you have some questions that really don't relate to this one, but relate to the next matter. So we can go ahead and if the mayor just open up the next 3 items for us. And we'll work through those, and then you can delay action until we're finished with the presentation of all of them.
Item 11, hold public hearing, consider an act on the ordinance annexing a 12.381 acre tract of land situated in the F. Trevino survey. Abstract number 1243, generally located on the north side of Spring Hill Road, west of northern terminus of McNatt Road, and the approximate address being 1657 Spring Hill Road. Time is 7:01.
This is the annexation hearing for the council to determine whether they are wanting to go ahead and have this property annexed into the city and be subject to city regulations.
I was 11. Becky, I'm at the podium.
Vicky Dunn, 6131 Indian Paint Road, Aubrey, Texas, 76227. I have 2 questions. One is probably pretty easy. What is the city time for the noise ordinance? Like what time does everything have to shut it down?
Is it 10 o'clock? Isn't it 10 o'clock? I think so.
Okay, not an easy question. I thought it would be. Second question. I've noticed that living out in the ETJ and reading some of the comments from people that are kind of nearby the ETJ and in the city, when something happens and they call 911 or they call, hey, there's a dog or a cow or whatever it is, it's constantly it's ETJ. Well, it's city. Fight it out. And then to her point from earlier, then you've got somebody laying by the side of the road, hoping that you don't die because you don't have the resources that want to come in. So I'm concerned that annexing this property is going to do that. So you'll have part of it annexed into the city. You'll have part of it that's still in the ETJ across the street or down the road. And then you're going to have issues with having people that are there to help other people and they won't be able to. And frankly, I'm also concerned about having more drunk people on that road. Because I'm on a road with 2 event centers and it's miserable because you constantly have people screaming down the road at 55, 70 miles an hour on a 35-mile-an-hour road. So please take that into consideration.
As far as the location, I think they update dispatch and all that stuff as the boundaries change. What people, Non-emergency goes to the same dispatcher with answer 911. You know this because my wife was dispatch. And I'm not encouraging
Mayor and council. The people on Zoom can't hear, so you have to be at the podium. Come to the podium. People on Zoom can't hear. And the answer, mayor and council, is 10 o'clock is the time for it.
The last comment was not really that important enough for me to come back up here, and frankly, I can't remember what, oh, I was not disparaging against dispatchers whatsoever. I'm just saying that when people call in and they're not sure who to contact, or even if they're talking to their friends or whatever, sometimes it's hard to get the correct people to communicate and to come out and handle the issue.
I would, if I was in that area, I would a whole lot rather be reliant on the city of Aubrey than I would.
I've had extremely good luck with Denton County, so I can't speak ill of them either.
I'm not speaking ill of anyone, anybody. Vicky, I'm just.
I'm just
that
happy
Aubrey's
whoever
right here.
answers, that's what I want, is whoever answers my call in a timely manner. I don't care who it is. I hear you.
I'm just saying Aubrey's right here. It's probably the sheriff's department, once they change, they've got 4 deputies for the whole county. So, you know, I'd rather have Aubrey PD responding to me than I would waiting on the sheriff's deputy that's over here on the domestic. You know what I mean?
I understand.
Can I ask a question? So since this is currently in the ETJ, Denton County would prevail, which has no noise ordinances whatsoever, correct?
They are not subject to city of Aubrey ordinances at any time at this point.
So that's if they don't annex, that's what.
Yes, that's where we are today. That if they annex, then they would be subject to the ordinances. If they do not annex, they are not subject to the ordinances.
Susan Hargrove, 6489 McNabb Road, Austin, Texas. The question here is, when I have called about the rustic ranch and the noise, because we're blocked over. I hear them, shooting fireworks, they're shooting guns. But by the time the sheriff got over there, they didn't see it.
But that's because you're not in the city.
Yes, and I understand that, I just am trying to get some answers for me, because when we called them, they came out. Both sheriffs came out and they contacted me. They were wonderful about communications about what's going on. You know, yes, they were out, they were drunk. There were a bunch of people driving recklessly on Wayne Star Road. So the question, I'm sorry, I went around back to the word. On weekends, I believe the noise abatement plan is no. That's what I was told. Can you talk to me about? In the ETJ, so during the week, it's 10 o'clock.
No, the ETJ.
There is no time.
It's basically the same as any corporate county. It's just out there.
Well, that's what I was told. And I need to get some answers, because, you know, there's too many people involved, and everybody's got an opinion and nobody knows the answer. So that's why I wanted to kind of throw that out. Because there are times when 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, they're still making racket over here, and I call, do I not call, what in an 18-day situation. So I'm saying to them.
Well, your bureaucrat to yell at would be Ryan Williams. He's your.
He's my go-to guy?
He's your
Go-to boy?
Denton County,
Okay.
your Denton County representative. Get my number later. I'd be happy to talk with you and
Sure.
explain some things that I think that would interest you.
Okay.
Okay.
Mayor, council, for reference, anything in the ETJ or in unincorporated parts of the county would have to revert back to state law on noise.
So, public hearing, consider an act on ordinance changing the zoning. District for agriculture. Single-family residential. Uses by 12.3. Land situated on. That's right. To approve. Really, what's obviously the west of the Northern Compass. Have the approximate 1657. Our town is.
So on this one, this is the zoning request, and so I asked Jenny to put up on the screen the development regulations that if the annexation is approved and we proceed with zoning, this is what it would be. So their permitted uses are agricultural, single-family residential, detached dwellings, and banquet hall. Banquet hall has a definition there. It's just a temporary leased facility for events. And they can include kitchen facilities for preparation of food or catering of food and other entertainment activities customarily associated with not only weddings, but banquets and other types of receptions. There are some banquet hall standards. Banquet hall standards, it gives you the setbacks and the minimum rear yard lot area, maximum lot coverage, parking 10 spaces per 1,000 square feet of gross floor area plus outdoor areas. The public works director is listed in ordinance as approving alternative parking surface if that is necessary. So that is one of the options, but these are, and then next, exhibit D has the concept plan. So that shows the piece of property. And exhibit E has the elevations. So that's what's being proposed. It's a standard zoning ordinance. So it simply is basically identifying for upcoming developments, identifying the standards that look like a district property. If it is in this.
So I just piled up to them.
I think it was here as well.
Ryan Brown, 7175 Rhodes Road, up Texas. My question was, does this zoning allow for on-site overnight, like hoteling, that kind of thing? Because if the concern is drunk people driving around, I would think that would be mitigated to some degree by having somebody stay. Obviously, that's lost. But if the zoning doesn't allow for it, then it can't be that. The way council can do things with EPJ and the city. A lot of people would feel like we can just push a button and block in what's city hall in it, so push a button, put in the HEB out there. That's not how it goes. These folks on this place, they're asking for this opportunity. But I always see on Facebook, everybody's like, the stupid city council needs to do this, and that stupid city council needs to do that. And the bottom line is, maybe I did that a little bit too before I got up in the seat, but once you get up here, you figure out that we're really pretty good. I guarantee you, I don't want all these people living here anymore. When it builds out, I'm probably going to Oklahoma just like you. You know what I mean? But trust me in saying that this council has your best interest in heart. There's a lot of things that we push back on that you don't see. We're not evil people. And I'll talk to you a little more and maybe you'll figure out. Do what? I don't know if I go that far. But I look forward to talking.
Steve G, over 80 on West, LP. We own property adjacent to this on two sides. Now typically try to stay out of neighbors zoning issues, but I would say I'd much rather prefer, because as everybody's talked about, it's open land in the ETJ. I use that on some of our other projects.
is what you're able to do. So I'd much rather see my neighbors being part of the city that are governed by your rules, your fire department, your police department, and that. So I would be in favor of this. I don't know exactly what the use is, but you've got a noise limit on that. There's gonna be, we're gonna have neighbors next door here within the year, but I think the control, this is the best solution all the way around, is to annex zone it and let the city make sure it gets done to your standards instead of the county standards. Thank you.
And that's something else. Annexing in is a double-edged sword. I mean, and being out there is a double-edged sword too. Because right now, you can't even vote for it. You know what I mean? So, and there's no regulation, there's no anything. So you want regulation, or you want freedom. I mean, because somewhere in between, that's what you want, right? So, it's freedom. Right? We're in America, right? But you hear what I'm saying? It is, bless our hearts. Regardless how this turns out, I'm glad you came, and I look forward to talking.
Ms. Hargrove, Ms. Hargrove.
They
Mayor.
would come up here with the torches and all that stuff. We've seen that before. Yeah. But I appreciate you coming either way.
I've got a question for the property owners. What's the square footage of the structure you're planning?
We have not been voting on this.
Oh, you're not?
We have the neighborhoods.
Okay.
Sorry.
Are they?
I thought so. They're the one with the torches.
Does anyone know? Okay.
Couldn't find it.
LaShonda, do you know the square footage of the structure?
Yes, hold on 1 second. Let me double check. So they actually are proposing possibly an accessory or a smaller accessory unit that would be utilized for like basically the bridal quarters. And I believe, hold on 1 second, I think it was around 5,000 feet. So yes, it is around 5,000 square feet. And the site plan will also be coming forward to you all at the next meeting too. So you'll be able to see more definitive details exactly on how that site is going to get built out.
Comments? Steve?
So I normally don't get in the middle of these things.
But, so if I understand the rules, 5,000 square feet, 10 spaces for, it's 50 spaces. So, we have our entry street for Keeneland, which basically abuts his property. So they're not going to have enough parking in there. And so they're going to be parking in the entry divided boulevard for the Keeneland entry. And then trying to walk across landscaping and cross walkways and stuff like that. So I don't know if you can ask for some type of screen fence right there to try to keep people from doing that. Then I get to thinking, well, then you're gonna make them walk all the way around out in the 428 right away, and that's probably not the safest thing. I think the parking, the wedding venues I've been to, 50 spots, if you have a big wedding, is not enough. And I'm not opposed to it, but I think we should think through some of the things like this, and staff may already be on this. But I can just see them parking in that divided entry at Keeneland and then trying to walk through to the wedding spot. And everybody's gonna be fussing, not only at y'all, but at me about people parking on streets. That's just a comment.
One thing I would note is the applicant is currently working on a plan to add additional parking. So that would also be shown in that second site plan. So this is conceptual, but if the council wanted to go ahead and make that as a provision as part of this zoning to make sure that there was, more parking, I guess, than above what you're seeing currently on that concept plan, then we could also do that as well.
I think one of my questions, Patricia, can we require above and beyond what our zoning requires?
VR, general retail. This is a planned development, so you can certainly add things in.
So that is just a conceptual design. That's not where the actual facility is going to be located. That's floodplain. It's going to be pulled up a little bit. So on your site plan, you'll have more detail. But currently in the plan development, we have 10 spaces per 1,000 square foot. That can be increased if we need it to be, or we think it will be. They are going to enter off of McNatt though, not from Spring Hill. The entrance into the venue itself will be off of McNatt. And there is plenty of room for more parking. I guess we could also, under number 7 in parking, we have the type of parking material is subject to approval by the Public Works Director. We could add some of that same language, or the city manager on the parking spaces, if we don't have an actual number to include in the ordinance.
Carried 7:43. Item 13, consideration of action on the development. 1657 Spring Hill Road.
So Mayor and Council, this is the development agreement item. And it is calling for the annexation. It's where the developer or the property owner agrees to the annexation and agrees to have the city's building codes applicable to them. So this is a fairly standard development agreement. This is not the PID tourist complex ones that you normally see. This is just a fairly simple agreement with some standards in it. And y'all have asked a lot of really good questions this evening, and I wish the applicant were here. So we've made it at least preliminary. Partway through, we've made it through the first part. Sorry, not coming out. So I would recommend that we table these items just so that we can get this cleaned up and get the applicant here, because y'all really should hear from the applicant with some of these questions, and some of the comments that have been made tonight that can certainly be tightened up within this document, some of the documents with some of the concerns that were raised. We can talk to the applicant about that. And I think bring you back something to address some of the concerns that we've heard tonight. So that's my recommendation.
Great minds think alike.
It's
Be nice to be able to talk to them. Though. Yeah.
We're gonna request a special meeting from the council. We could add it to the special meeting.
Well, I move that we table items 9, 10 through 13. Oh, okay. Yeah, I make a motion, I don't know, 10. So move. I make a motion that we table. Yes. We can copy and paste and copy and paste and copy and paste. That's where I'm at. Well, give a second. One, you got a second. Thank you. Thank you, Philip. Appreciate you all again. Motion to table. Item 11. Okay. I thought we were gonna get the left hand. By Jeff, second by Chuck, all in favor? Motion table item 12. Second. 13. Motion table item 13. Second. Jeff, say my Chuck, all in favor? Again. Department updates. Fire, I'm sorry.
Members of council, I thought I would have more information tonight. We've been working on 2 items. One is a proposal for weather radios. So the idea would be to provide a weather radio for every residence in the city. I'm working with Midland Radio Company to try to get a better price. And so I'm waiting on information back on them for like a wholesale price that we could purchase these and come back with a definitive number of what it would cost to fund the project. And then the other that we mentioned that we would work on is the coverage map for the tornado sirens. And I've reached out to Storm Sirens Incorporated, and they're working to produce that for us. So I'd hope to have it tonight, but certainly by next meeting, they should have it completed and to us to demonstrate the coverage of our current siren location. Outdoor warning siren.
Mayor and council, thank you again. I wanted to update you on my conversations with Denton ISD concerning House Bill 3, requiring armed security people on every campus. First of all, the area superintendent and Denton Police Lieutenant who covers SROs was so very grateful for council stepping up and providing a plan for security at Sandrock Elementary. We did agree that whatever funding they do per campus will be sent back to the city of Aubrey, should that get finally approved. So I was very encouraged about that meeting. They're under a significant, they're facing a significant issue to fund this HB3. So they're working on it. Hopefully we'll have some solid numbers soon. As soon as I do, I'll let you know. I just wanted to update the council that back in 2016 on January 19th, then Aubrey City Council passed resolution 735-16. That resolution was for a Dallas-Fort Worth area mutual aid task force that Aubrey would join. Additionally, Aubrey signed on to an interjurisdictional pursuit policy agreement. There was some hiccups at that time. The paperwork didn't get properly processed. And we weren't formally into those two agreements. We got that all worked out and we are now formally a participant in, more importantly, the mutual aid agreement, which aligns out if I call jurisdictions to come help me, how the insurance works and paying personnel, all those things. It's already done. It's 131 agencies here in North Texas. So it broadens my ability to call and help, which I was very encouraged with. And then the jurisdictional pursuit agreement, policy agreement, a policy will be coming forward soon that mirrors their agreement. So each agency that we're either pursuing into or pursuing into the city of Auburn, we understand the rules of the road and what those departments are going to do. So it was very, very good thing to get that all finalized and formalized. The last update I have is on Windridge Speed. We had a couple little hiccups getting the ordinance lined out. We almost met the deadline for this meeting, but we didn't quite make it, so it will be next meeting. So just let me know. Thank you.
Works. I have a couple items for you. Our street project is going very well over in the High Meadow area. Next week will be when they'll start putting the final layer of asphalt on. Be 7/31 through 8/4. We will need to close High Meadow. We know that's going to be a big ordeal, but we have pushed out a lot of notifications starting today. Met with TxDOT. I'll have that closed during the daytime from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then we'll open it up in the evening for traffic to come in and out. Be a little congestion there, and hopefully they'll work as quick as they can to get it finished. The Faulkner Well. The Faulkner Well, we're this close. We had one last camera of it this week, and there is still a little bit of area that's in question. Our hydrologist is looking at it now, but we're hoping that we're going to be able to move forward and get a temporary pump installed so we can get that well back in service. And then we'll have a schedule of when our new equipment will be here. But we just want to check that last item before we give them the go ahead. Any other projects or an update on?
I'm sorry, Chief Wood mentioned something, got me chuckled up for a moment there. Good evening, council and Mayor. Thank you for your time that you provided me here. Status on this, my successor right now, we have numerous postings up, not only LinkedIn, but also governments.com right now. We have over 153 candidates bidding for this position on here as well. So we have some really great, strong candidates. The posting will remain open till the end of this month, of course. We already, myself and our city manager, Charles Crowder, are going through a process of also rating and also making final selections on who will be going and proceeding in the final stages of that. And we plan to continue in our other recruitment processes also within our city municipality. We just recently also just giving you a little information, brought on board one other maintenance technician position and also our first ever building inspector also position as well. So bright things coming around with our municipality as well. Thank you.
Thank you for all you've done here. I really appreciate personally and professionally the job.
I'm blessed to have served you and the council and also the citizens of Auburn. Thank you.
Mayor and council, just to add to what AJ is saying, he did not mention that we have hired our 100th employee, and we will have them hopefully at the meeting in August to celebrate that milestone and identify that employee for you. So we're looking forward to it.
Mayor, council, I would just want to update y'all. We still have plans to demolish the shed. I was hoping it would have been done soon, but we are waiting on a Atmos Energy gas certification that the gas is turned off in the building. So, and I'm looking, yes, very important, and especially since my office is right there. So fire department being right back next to us makes it really handy though. So if you want to have some fun, I'll let you know when the demolition is and we can all watch it happen. So anyway, thank you. And anytime you're downtown or at City Hall and you want to come see the building, we have made a lot of progress. We'd love to have y'all come over and see it. If you see the blue Camry outside, I'm in the building. Thanks.
Future agenda request. Council members, staff, and citizens may request items to include on future agendas. Discussions limited to what the request is for, and if and when the item can be put on future agenda.
Mayor, council, this would normally be the time that I would ask you to have a special meeting. But since we have a workshop after executive session, I will save that for that time period. So you can look at your schedules and see when you might be available. I can tell you, we have to do it prior to August 7th. We have to have our tax rate in the paper, to the paper by August 8th. So it'll be a item for the workshop.
Executive session, in accordance with the Texas Government Code, section 551.001, ETSEC, the city council will recess into executive session to discuss the following. 551.071, 1 and 2, consultation with an attorney for Walker Well, interlocal agreements with Denton County Federal Water Supply District. In section 551.072, real property for land acquisition for project 38, land acquisition downtown.
Motion to move into executive session after a 5-minute reset.
Second by Jeff, second by Chuck, all in favor? 5-0, time it's 7:36. All right, we'll reconvene in open session. Time is 9:38. Couple of items to take action on. From executive session, one being land acquisition for project 38.
Mayor, I move that we direct the city manager to move forward on project 38 as discussed in executive session.
Motion by Jeff, second by Chuck, all in favor? 5-0. And then FM 428, correct?
Move to direct the city manager to proceed as directed in closed session to proceed regarding the FM 428 trade.
Second. By Jeff, second by Chuck, all in favor? 5-0. All right, workshop items, discuss city finances, tax rate, budget, initiatives, operations, projects, and strategic plans. Not limited to, but including direction regarding tax rate, employee compensation and benefits, FY 23-24 project, city departments and services, revenues and expenditures, water and wastewater rates, fund balance, debt.
Yep.
Okay, so this first sheet is a summary. It has changed only a few dollars from what we'd seen last time, so these numbers should look familiar. So I just want to give you a frame of reference that we hadn't made much changes to the numbers since we talked. This next item is the capital project summary. So just to let you know, the shaded areas we looked at last time. So those have already been approved in the preliminary budget that we're working with. The white sections, the unshaded areas, are not yet approved, and we're going to talk about those tonight. Across the top, I've got columns, so department description, then general reserve earmark. We'll talk a little bit about that. The CapEx, you can see virtually all of the CapEx has already been discussed and approved. We did add the salt/sand spreader that we had talked about, so that's that 30,000. CIP is funded projects. So the big one there, the fire department, that's obviously the 2020 CO. As is the 400. The 20 or the 2.5 million is the project 38 that we spoke about. That would be a funded project in water and sewer. And then there's a little $17,000 item for the police department all the way to the right. The speed limit message trailer. Looking to add that also. And then the big grouping there is all under the vehicle fund. So we want to talk about it tonight. So if we start with the upfront seed money for the benefit trust. So that is our employee benefit trust fund that we spoke about that at the last meeting. We are looking to seed that with a couple $100,000 of existing general reserve. And to start a process of building that up so that it can act as a buffer against unforeseen expenses, try to keep us a little less volatile with our primarily our healthcare costs. The next one is an earmark from the general reserve for it to start off the vehicle replacement program. I call that seed money also. So this would be money that exists in the general fund. We would earmark it, establish a new bank account, and earmark it for vehicle replacements. It would still be at the council's disposal. If we needed to pull it back, we'd be able to do that. But it would be initially designed to help us start the vehicle replacement program.
I have a question on that.
Mhm.
If the water and sewer are supposed to be their own enterprise fund, then how are we taking money out of the general to fund vehicles for water and sewer?
Right, so we would use the vehicle, the general fund reserve to seed it, to get it started, but we would not be able to use it for enterprise fund vehicles. We'd have to fund those through the enterprise.
And then so as we fund those through the enterprise, then the general fund gets paid back?
We could do it that way.
Maybe I'm not understanding.
No, you are. We could pay back the general fund, or we would not use that. We would just use the enterprise fund. If it had to borrow money from general, we could do it that way.
We did talk about this previously. Slightly about water and sewer vehicles that were in the fund. Such as the dump truck for 156,000. We're showing that as water, but that dump truck will be used for far more than the water department. That will be used by Public Works, the streets, and moving dirt. It could do a number of things. And it's possible, if you want to look at it from this standpoint, we can take the water and sewer vehicles. There's a couple of them that we can push till next year and fund from water and sewer, or we can fund those from water and sewer this year into this. Next year, this year, we're recommending that we seed the fund from general fund reserve. It was going to be a recommendation that we do that from debt, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But what we want to do is seed it, and then next year, the different revenue streams will fund this: water, sewer, contract with Silverado, contract with water districts. There's a fire fund. There's multiple different revenue streams that will fund this next year, and Because this is one-time money. We can't take this from reserves every time. So it would be one-time money. So they would be funded for, if it's a water vehicle, it would be funded. They'll be split on the schedule so that water would feed that fund. Does that answer your question?
But we're still taking it out of the general fund to start. 1.8 is coming from all Aubrey residents to fund water and sewer vehicles. Is that right?
1, 2, 3, would be 3 vehicles.
So this F-350, the F-150, F-150, F-250, F-250,
Is that water
F-250,
sewer? Is that what that is?
72, 156.
Yep. Replacement W/S is water sewer.
Those are replaced.
So I'm showing 8 of the vehicles are water sewer related.
Yes, I didn't recognize the WS. Do all of this have to be working?
They are very old, but we can use that.
What if we look at this as a combination of funding through water, sewer, and engine? Would that be correct?
Well, yeah, I think we need to pull out the water sewer into the enterprise fund. I feel like if we put the seed, whatever seed money we need for the other vehicles that are listed here, plus whatever we would need to seed, you know what I mean, for vehicles going forward is one thing, but I feel like the water sewer needs to be out of their own enterprise fund.
Are these strictly water sewer? Would be used in that function.
Well, no, like you said, the junction, it's used for.
So could you tell me tomorrow which ones are used across different departments that will be? I'm hearing the council, it would be okay, we used it as. If it's used across the board, we can seed it from general fund. But if it's a specific water sewer, you're saying you would prefer to see it as a water sewer revenue coming into the new fund.
Correct. I'm just one person. I don't know.
Well, I mean, what's the seed money on just the water?
We'll have to figure that tomorrow. Okay.
I'd be happy to find out. It's fine. I get the idea.
We're gonna ask for a special meeting, so this is just, it's a workshop.
right.
I mean,
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
come back to you next week and. Because you won't actually vote on this until August 24th. I get my dates mixed up. So you'll vote on this on August 24th, so we can come back to you next week with a number on that.
Okay.
But I'm hearing you like the idea of seeding the fund. Or starting the fleet fund.
Right, for non-water sewer related vehicles. Yep.
Okay. How about the employee benefit trust? We should continue going with that route. Okay.
Basically, it keeps us from being so volatile each time we go. So we might be able to give like a nice raise to the staff, but it's all eaten up in healthcare premiums. So we're trying to not have that shock every year. So if we put a little bit of money aside, we might have that to help and get not such a huge increase year over year. I love that. That was a nice idea. I like that one.
So on the healthcare. It is our chief complaint from our employees that our healthcare is extremely high. Family coverage this year. Family coverage this year was $866 a month or $461 a pay cycle. If you were in the HSA plan, if you were in the preferred or the PPO gold standard plan, it's actually called the MTBC plan. It was $866 a payday. I'm sorry, $866 a payday. If you're an HSA, it's $461 a payday. What we did this year is Mike did the budget and he did a budget assessment of a budget assumption. It's late of 20% increase on our healthcare. Our Blue Cross Blue Shield quote came back to us this year at a 3% increase over last year. So what we did, we just took the initiative and we asked our hub, Rodney Dryden, our representative with Hub. We asked him to take a portion of that 20%, since we were only going up 3%. We asked him to take a portion of that $131,000 and see what he could do to the rates, see what that would do for us to assist the employees. What he came back to us with, and what we'll be proposing to you at the next meeting, Rodney will be here to go over all of this with you. What it allowed us to do was get our employee only is $0, which is always the same. Employee with a spouse, instead of $213, it went down to $150 per payday, so $63 in savings. Employee children went from $175 to $100, which is a $75 savings. And family went from $461 to, did I say that already? $175 to $100 for a $75 savings for children, and $461 for family, down to $350 for a $111 savings. That's per payday.
Every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks,
Okay.
yes. So it's a, for the family, if you have your family coverage and you're in the HSA, you're going to save over $2,600 a year on the way these are. And that cost, right now, our budget for healthcare is, last year, our budget was how much, Mike? It was 800. It was 870,000, I believe, and we're at 997 this year. Overall, our 2023 budget for all of our benefits on healthcare insurance was 1,008,000, and this year is 1,193,000 is our budget, but that's actually going to be about 1,139,000 because of these rates that we receive. So we'll be bringing that to you next week. I just wanted to tell you tonight, that's one of the things that we're recommending as part of the general fund reserve is to seed this surplus. Every year in the past, we've taken the surplus out of the healthcare and put it back into the general fund reserve. What I'm proposing is we take these rates and we make this our floor. This is our floor. We build our surplus. So if we have a bad renewal year, we can help that bad renewal year on the city side and have a smaller increase to our employees. There will be some other things that we have to do in the future, and the most unpopular of which is down the road. You know, we have to prepare ourselves. We're going to have a tobacco surcharge. Our insurance rates are going to continue to skyrocket. And if we don't put that tobacco surcharge in, we're years behind. I checked 5 different cities today, and of those 5, 4 have a tobacco surcharge. So that'll be one of the first things that happens to us down the road. It'll be on your honor, but keep in mind, we offer tobacco cessation for free in our healthcare plan. So it's an opportunity for people to get healthier. I wanted to kind of give you that overview tonight, since it was a workshop. Rodney will be here next month to go over the whole renewal with you. But I think that, you know, if the council's good with it, that's the direction I'm going to keep going with him, is to use that money to get these rates down so that at least we have a floor that we can work with and it's not so expensive.
Is there a reason we wouldn't start that this year?
Which one?
Tobacco?
We need to have we need to communicate with our employees. We need to say, hey, a year from now, 2 years from now, we're going to have a tobacco surcharge because it's expensive. And we would spend a year, or we would spend 2 years working on wellness to where we offer tobacco cessation. We give everybody time to do it on their own. It's too soon right now. It would be really tough for somebody to stop using tobacco in a few months period. So I would say 2 years that we would wait and work on our wellness and add this as part of our wellness. Because it's really a negative when you do it. There's the carrot and the stick. The carrot is get right with your healthcare, take care of wellness, be a good consumer of your healthcare, of your insurance. The stick is you're not doing that, so we're going to make you pay extra money.
So my only concern with us dropping it, I love that, the thought of it, but if we do have the year that it goes up 20% and now we're digging into this, and then the next year it goes up 20% and we don't have this surplus anymore. Now these rates go up considerably, right? They probably go up $200 instead of.
So right now with no surplus, the employee bears the brunt of it unless the council decides to take it.
Right.
If we have the surplus, we move together slowly. And it would allow us, there would be a rate increase. If we have a bad year, there will be a rate increase, but it'll be half of what it would have been because we have that surplus available to us. It just helps us weather the storm for a minute. There's other options on our from Hub that they can help us. I mean, they helped us a lot this year with Blue Cross and Blue Shield. We were 160%, 170. We were at 170% of premium this year. So for us to get a 3% renewal, we've still, it's unbelievable at this point.
The market dynamics were fighting. The big healthcare providers were fighting. I mean, the insurers are fighting. The guy that won was getting ripped up. They decided to stop doing that, so that's why we got this way.
So we're gonna fund basically 127,000 this year with the budget, plus another $200,000 for the seed.
Yes, but the surplus will just, that's just a surplus that will sit there. It's earmarked. You can go get it if you need it. It'll always be there.
Is there some magic number? It seemed like they said that one of the reasons we got screwed so bad on insurance is because we got so few employees. Is there like a number of employees that you get, like some kind of sweet spot where it drops a little bit?
Well, there is a sweet spot for us to go self-insured. And once we're self-insured, you have a little bit more power with your representatives to go out and do a little more because you're not just in the marketplace. We're in the marketplace with everybody else on our healthcare. They look at us, but you know, the magic pill is you got to keep your claims down. We've got to work on wellness, educate our employees. We've got to look for pre-diabetes. We've got to look for pre-hypertension. We need to get this wellness off the ground. I'm talking to David Bruce about it on a regular basis. I talk to Hub about it every year. But once we get rolling with wellness, really, in my opinion, I've been on a healthcare committee for over a decade previous life. The only way you get rates to stabilize is by using wellness. Otherwise, you have people going to the ER. You'll have people that get into one of these expensive one of these less expensive plans that costs us less money, but there'll be more claims in it. So we've got to educate. It's just this year, one of the rules that we're going to have, I haven't communicated this yet. I'm going to talk to Hub about every employee has to visit with someone before they elect their insurance. We need to talk to them. It'll either be somebody from Hub, it'll be our HR director, it'll be David Bruce, somebody, they've got to talk to somebody, or we may have insurance meetings where we communicate some of this to them during those insurance meetings. So the 200,000 is just a recommendation from us. We have money sitting in the general fund reserve. We're saying earmark it in the benefit trust in case we need it next year. If something happens this year, it's still a reserve and it's available to the council if you have to go get it for something else. It'll always be a reserve that's available to us until we use it. So the 200,000 that we put in, I'm thinking that we'll save 100 in our plan because we're fully funding the employees that we intend to hire, which is 110. We're at 92 in our plan right now. We'll be at 110 by sometime next year, but we won't be paying that immediately. So there'll be some that falls into the surplus anyway. So we should have a decent surplus next year. And if we have a good plan year, you know, we may have a decent renewal next year and it may build even more. And as long as it's building, it's there for the council to go to if you need it. Because I've seen previously in another life, the fund can get up, you know, over $1 million if you let the surplus just build. And I've seen it before where you've kind of had to go take money out of it because it's really, you got to get some of it out because it's wasting its time over there. So as I said, Rodney will be here next week to promote, tell you about it.
So just a couple words on water and sewer. On the first page, we're saying that water and sewer with those rate increases that we spoke about at the last workshop, 4% in water and 6% in sewer, 4 and 6 total 10. That would result at least in a budget surplus of 382,000. So we'll have to see how that goes. That'll factor into our decision about buying capital for water and sewer. If you flip to the page that has so it'd be the next page, cash balances. Just below the break there, you see water and sewer. There's $860,000. So we'll have to see how that goes. If that starts going up, then we can start feathering in some of this capital that we're looking for water sewer. We don't need it all immediately. So that when we do hone this plan a little bit, I think that's where I'm going to go is let's put together a plan that brings these things in ratably as that fund goes up. So I don't really have many comments on the cash. Again, just giving it to you so you see where we're at the end of June. The invested funds are earning about 5 to 5.5%. Okay, let's go to if there's no other questions on the capital or the cash, let's take a look at the property tax. I have a slide called property tax rate considerations. So we were able to work with the collector's office, Michelle French's office, to get an estimate of what the tax rate calc. So that's the statutory calculation that we have to do. It's 80 steps. We did have preliminary numbers from the assessor on the valuation. So they ran it through we found out it's actually 3 programs because I asked them if there was a single database that they use. They said, no, there's 3. But they're able to put that together for us. And these numbers I have here come from that. You see, I have that reference column. It is the line number that we picked off those values from. So one of the important rates for us is the no new revenue rate. You can see that this year it came in at 56.1, so 0.561 versus our current year, we're at 46.5. That surprised us, and they did a thorough review of the calculation. They said it's correct. And the main contributor to it going up is the bottom thing called tax ceilings. We put into effect a couple of years ago, tax ceilings, and they said it takes up until this time for it to impact. And this calculation, which is a legally mandated calculation, it's not a predictor of future numbers. It drove this no new revenue rate up. So once we got our arms around that, we realized that, okay, so our current year is actually below the new no new revenue rate. We also know that this, if you see 68 million under tax ceilings there will be ad valorem taxes that we will receive from that. The calculation assumes it's 0, which is not going to happen. So just running through the rates there, you can see the voter approval rate, pretty similar to last year. The INS, which is again comes from line 48 of the tax rate calculation, is virtually the same. I plugged in under M&O rate. You can see our current one is almost 30 cents. I plugged in 30 to tie to the same rate that we have this year. So that I've done that to just give you an idea of the discussion of what that would drive from a standpoint of budget revenue from property tax. The tax value has gone up. The general fund revenue, I currently have $2,090,000 in the budget. This rate, that's a very conservative number. This rate would drive probably a higher number. I don't think beyond 2.5, but it could get there, depending on the mix of the tax that we're going to be receiving from it. So $2,090,000 is what I've got in there. So all these numbers you're looking at has that one. This year, the 1,000,009 looks pretty good. Looks like we'll probably end up very close to that. This was interesting. The new value added 107 million this year. Last year was 125 million. So it actually went down a little bit. That will start going up, of course, as we start building these rooftops we're talking about. So But anyways, the decision this year gives us a little bit more leeway with the no new revenue rate. The voter approval rate is still very high. So we do have room to move, and we built the budget using a good assumption that 2,090,000 was a good assumption to drive our plans for next fiscal year. So
Sorry, Mike, the noon or the revenue was calculated with which rate? The 2,090,000,
the 2,090,000 is,
just keeping the same rate we have the current rate?
yep. So we found out a lot about this tax rate calculation, but we also found out that there are no experts. And that it is not, I won't quote anybody, but we did hear that it's more of a guideline than a predictor or a required rate that you need to use. But unfortunately, the no new revenue rate, just by its name, if we use that rate, we would obviously drive a lot more than the 2,090,000 that we have in there. So it's not a a cure-all of everything. So we still have to think about it.
What was the rate before this current rate? Did anybody remember? It's like, it was 0.5 something.
52.5, yeah.
It's come down,
Yeah.
it's come down a lot since this council's been here, because it was what was it, 56? Chris? Did it used to be 56.5 or something like that? Or 60.
Yeah, it
But
was-
I mean, the standard to live in Aubrey or whatever was supposed to be 56. Yeah, 56.4 or something.
I showed 2013, it was 63.
We're gonna get it calculated.
113. Well, I believe it. Yeah.
So that's all I have on the property tax. Seems to support the plans that we've built into the budget, so that's good, without having to raise that rate.
That is exciting, because it has. It's gone up pretty good. I mean, people were, I was talking to people getting taxed out back when I started. They try to run. I can imagine talking to other people now.
Do we know how the legislation that was went through is gonna impact? Or is that just on the school district side? And when- that's good.
Yep.
And do we know when that is?
Yep. The assessor is, they've given us the certified totals for the tax values. And they're working on getting us the adjusted ones for the ISDs.
Have they
So-
come back with the new TNT after the certified?
I don't have it yet. They're still working on it. Okay,
Thanks for going, it was so late. It's late night workshop, you're running my kind of workshop hours.
We start talking math. I'm like,
It's either this or changing diapers, so I'm gonna do this.
Yes.
It is the staff recommendation that we maintain the tax rate at 46, not to go up or move down. It will generate the necessary revenue for us to operate this year. We did speak with the tax collector, and we will feel this again next year. Not as bad, but our no new revenue will probably go above our taxable rate again. So, and then it'll start leveling off as we move forward, and then we'll see that. We figured we were going to come to you with a recommendation to incur debt to fund the fleet replacement. But we have no recommendation at this point of debt. I can't really. I'm after talking to Jim, I think we need to take a year off at least, see where we're at next year, get some council priorities of what you want to do. And, some of the things we've already talked about tonight. We may need some bonding capacity next year. And he did believe that our bonding capacity would go up next year. beyond the 5 million that we have right now. So I think our recommendation is what Mike and I talked about is, and maybe we voiced that to the mayor as well. We don't want to do any kind of debt this year. So that brought us back to how do we do the general reserve funding or the general reserve earmarks that we discussed. We're sitting at 6.5 million. And are you interested? I know what your concern is. Beyond that, are we interested in funding the initial fleet replacement from general reserve? Okay, so we can come back to that next week. And then we'll work together on the water and sewer side of it to see where we're at. That would put you at around 1.2, right? It looks, so if you look at the bottom at 1,611,000, that's the actual number for the fleet replacement the first year. We're recommending the first year to do 1.8. That way it has a small surplus in it to begin. Next year, I think we only spend how much? 600,000. There'll be a $600,000 surplus next year. 1 million spent next year. We'll have 600 in surplus. And the thing to remember is if we have a bad year, we can go get it. Or if we have a bad year, we don't fund fleet replacement. So just because you do it this year doesn't mean you have to do it next year. It would be nice. We'll work on that. All right. We'll work on that too. We'll go ahead and start looking at how can we fund this? But if we did it this year, if we took out the water and sewer, that puts you at about 1.2 million in an earmark from general reserve. That brings you down to 5.3. If you do 200,000 of upfront money on the employee benefit trust, that leaves you at 5.1. That's somewhere in the neighborhood of 800 to $1 million if you have a project that you want to work on. And still remain above our 90-day requirement, 25%.
How are we going to keep track of the amount of money that's in those employee benefit surplus account or the fleet replacement surplus account? They're all in the general fund, but we don't know.
So those will be separate funds now. Mike's going to create a bank account for the.
We have a separate fund.
Mhm.
I created a vehicle.
So it won't.
Have separate bank accounts. The balance in that bank account will track the spreadsheet. With the ending balance. Bank. Right.
It'll be a page in your regular budget. What number is it? Do you know?
So it'll be in addition to our current list of.
Like 70, what's 701 now?
That's, but I think I've got it in 501, so I've got various. Definitely funded from the 501. This, I probably got 4 or 5 cash. Probably, I think it's 5.
You'll see it and it'll always have a balance instead of being like the regular general fund where it zeroes out at the next year and you start over. It'll progress and go forward and you'll see the surplus every year or the deficit for that matter, if you had a deficit in it. So again, you have about 800 to $1 million if you have a project. If you want it, you don't necessarily have to have a project. If you want to move these funds from general reserve into another fund and earmark it there, you're perfectly okay to do that. We're just looking for your guidance here on where you want to put it.
So part of my experience with vehicle replacement funds is, well, we thought we had pre-funded with enough money and the cost of vehicles going up eats that really fast.
What's your percentage?
4%.
We're doing 4% increase.
Just wondering if we want to add a little bit more extra to that.
We could make it 6, see what it does to it.
Or do we want to go with 4 for the first year and this time next year?
So we need to readjust that percentage. Yeah, I think this coming year is probably pretty solid because we get 4% on top of prices that are current like right now. So we're really only going 3-4 months that we're gonna pull the trigger finally as soon as you say yes and the budget's approved in October, we'll start buying a year's worth of deals. But next year, you're right, who knows what happens. It probably will be more.
Yeah, we just ran into budget shortages. Although we thought we had way over pre-funded.
And then the plan is everything we sell to go back in.
Yeah.
So all of the sell money.
All the auction money goes back out.
I'm looking for a project. What kind of project do y'all want to do?
Awesome baseball.
We do too. We do too.
Definitely. It's gonna go very far for baseball fields.
Mike, when we get together to talk through and kind of finalize the tax rate, can you have some breakdowns? If we went up, like instead of 4.65, we went to like 4.8 and 5.0, like what that would do? I mean, I know we want to be, fiscally responsible, obviously, but if we know that all of those things are going to go through from the legislature on the school tax, there might be some things that we could fund some ball fields. We could fund a few of those types of things, and our residents still would not be paying more than they're paying this year, even though their property values have gone up.
Well, the other thing we have to consider is once we do build ball fields and start building parks and those kind of things, it's expensive to maintain.
You gotta feed the beast.
Yeah, so there's gonna have to be some additional funding to be able to pay for maintenance, operations and maintenance. Yeah, but you don't ever break even on that.
Well, Little Elm says they do with their
I
rec
can
center.
tell you what they're spend per field on maintenance.
I'm at the rec center.
Yeah,
They said
the
that.
rec center, the baseball and softball, and soccer does not break even.
The other fear would be that we do the hospital. School.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
We
know
can-
the last time I knocked on doors and talked to people about how they felt about the tax rate. They don't necessarily mind going it up as long as they're honest with them. And as long as you've got goals set to, you don't just leave it up or go up for no reason. You know, so.
I'd like to just look at that and see what it does. Like what numbers are we looking at? Just knowing that maybe this year with what the legislature's done, it's not gonna maybe hit residents like it would have in the past.
We could have a little model where we just think the taxable value. For this flooding different rates. It's a penny is somewhere around 75,000. You could actually model it out with our actual certified values and see. You're talking fraction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be in favor of going up for the current year. But that's just because every year we've been explaining, like, we're not going up on the tax rate, we're going down, but you're still gonna pay more in taxes because of your property value.
That's it.
We've always been explaining that.
That's it.
So.
But I'm just saying.
Yeah, but do we really know what the
Even if
legislature
they're paying the same.
stuff's gonna do?
Well, they're paying us more, they're not paying more in taxes. total
I agree,
because
so
of school
that, but I
tax.
don't, like, my idea would not be to try and keep it the same, if anything, let's just let them say it, but it's just personal.
Any other projects you're thinking about? No, we want parks and ball fields. Not hearing anything. Well, if we do 1.2 million and vehicle replacement, and then work on the water sewer from another revenue stream. And you put $200,000 in the employee benefit trust. That leaves you about 5.1 million sitting in general reserve. So you could earmark or spend another 800 to a million. You know, I think Mike and I were more comfortable leaving it 4.5. Just for uncertainty's sake. I know that's more than the 25%, but you know how conservative we are.
I thought there's a lot of other things that we may need to throw some cash at as we do them, like the downtown project. What if we need to throw an extra 60,000 around the issue with the tanker removal, sidewalks? Text dot com. Well, Leanne's got 300,000 for affordable bill. What if that's 500,000?
I think it's going to be 4. I really do. I think it's going to be closer to 4 because there's some other things she's going to have to do. I'm afraid we're going to have to come ask you for some more money on that one.
In that case, holding it back is not necessarily a bad idea to just go, you know what, we're gonna leave it. Because you don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Over the next 6 months.
We'll
If we decide we want to park, I would put the fence around the drive.
we're here for you.
What I'm hearing is this isn't fun. You guys just described. A lot of earmark that stuff. Say that we're going to put aside $800,000 for council approved uncertain or whatever. You have that. Instead of letting it sit undefined in the capital. We have needs, we should spell those out. Start earmarking this money. It's just not sitting there.
Well, that 300,000 for the building, that's in reserve, bro. So that's part of that number that you just.
But 300 is not in reserves. It's in the budget in 501. It's not in the reserve. It's accounted for. It's accounted for in our current revenue stream. But you could do what we did last year, and you could do a contingency in the administration budget that is council discretion. We did $200,000 that we didn't do that this year. I mean, you could put $500,000 in there if you wanted to. It would knock the surplus down to 0, but it's still basically the same thing. If you wanted to have that contingency fund there, that way you don't have to go back and vote and do an amendment. You just tell us that's what we want to spend that money on. And then we go spend it as you direct. It doesn't require an amendment. We didn't even, I know we said we used it this year, but we never drew it down. I think it's still sitting at 198,000 in this year's budget because we used 190,000. We never drew it down. We had enough surplus this year that handled, we hired somebody, we hired David Bruce and we hired somebody else. And we said we would use that contingency money for that. We just never drew it down.
Oh, I get that it's just a number in the budget. And when you say, like you said, the reserve fund at
6.5.
If we take 2 million of that between capital for the vehicle replacement plan and then employee benefit addition, you said there's a lift of 4 point.
I reduced the vehicle on the water sewer. I reduced the vehicle on the water sewer I reduced vehicle to 1.2 from general fund so we can work on it till next week. And then
Right, the way you did the numbers, you reduced those from what the actual account balance was, what logic shows to be the balance.
yes,
So that leaves an extra $800,000 like you said, it's above our threshold.
Yes.
So that's the 800,000 to 100.
Yes.
Million that I'm talking.
yes. That's what I understood. Yes.
You threw me off when you said that's not in reserve.
The building is not in reserves. The building itself is in the budget and it's accounted for in reserves that are in this year, in revenues that are in this year's budget.
No, it's in the budget, but mine is because of the.
No, it should be an operating.
Look at it as, we're gonna pay for that. to operate.
Yeah.
New operating. Even with that 300. We're still generating a surplus.
Yes.
Spend should be there, so.
So when we look at this cash balances, it's in this 406 operating fund. 300 of that is earmarked for the building. Like where in this is the 300,000? Is that what you're asking?
It's not. It is in future revenues that we expect to come in next year. Part of our budget. It's like, where is our salary?
This year's budget,
It's this year.
this year's budget.
This,
Mhm.
what, FEMA,
So where is it in here? With the accounts that we have, where is that 300,000 sitting?
300 for the building?
Yes.
Well, it's not in. Misunderstanding?
So the 300,000 is budgeted in 22-23.
No.
It is in streets. It's in
current
streets.
year budget item. Okay,
Yes.
So it's in the current year budget.
Yes. Oh, so it's in this 4 million.
No, the cash to pay for future spending this year is in this year's budget. And this year's budget, we were saying is gonna generate a surplus, that at the end of the year, it be put into the general fund reserve.
Okay.
But as of right now, I have cash coming in.
Yeah.
And I have cash going out.
Okay.
And it's doing that every day, thousands of times. So
Right.
I don't have it sitting, so I don't have a bank account that's in, I've got the purchase, the office thing.
Got it.
Account. But when I do set up a fund like that, it does sit there physically, like the fire station.
Okay.
That money's sitting there waiting for us to go to fire.
Okay.
But this is different. This is like, consider it like the way Charles and I look at it, as an operating item versus a project. Project is something that's going to take more than a year. Operating items, you plan to budget and execute the same year. That's when we can fund it with other things that you decide to do there. And you would have to come and say, listen, we want to pull money out here. In other words, we're gonna operate in a deficit. We don't have enough revenue from the cash coming in to buy this. That's not our plan.
We don't have, that's what I was talking about last time when you asked this question. That $300,000, we might not even have it right now. That may be revenue that comes into us in August or at some other point, because we constantly have revenue coming in throughout the entire year. So
But in that scenario, you borrow the money from the operating account and then you put it back in the revenue.
yes, it's already,
There's peaks and valleys within your operating, you operate in this level. Sometimes you're down here, but a lot of times you're hanging up against the top like this. June was a bad month for cash. There were 3 payrolls, you got all kinds of expenses. So I actually went up. But then July comes in like this, and the cash balance go up. But we have enough cash flow that we can operate. If we were tight on cash, we have to be very careful with what we spend. For now, we can stick to our plan.
so I'm not hearing any other projects. I guess we want to think about it a little more, which is just fine. We're here for you. We do need to have a special meeting. Next week, we have to have it before the 8th. So sometime next week. Wednesday was the best night for Patricia.
That is my 6-year wedding anniversary.
Yes, but we also have we have the meeting with the school Wednesday night too, so. I don't know if Patricia, I mean, we just won't be able to count on her to be there, I guess. But we have to do it before the 8th because we have to have the tax rate to the you have to set the tax rate, set the public hearing, and we have to post that in the newspaper by noon on the 8th. It's in streets revenue. Do we have a preference? You could meet on Monday, Wednesday.
So Wednesday's.
I can't be there Wednesday.
Yeah, stop saying Wednesday, Randy, come on.
I'm good with any of it.
We could, you could meet on Monday, the 7th. We just have to have it in by,
Can we do it Saturday morning? early? Saturday the third?
like this Saturday,
Huh?
like this Saturday? Oh, no, next Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday the fifth, right? 8 o'clock. I mean,
I'm an employee. I'm available. So
Saturday morning, Chaparral Showcase. At Fuller Elementary.
Is it? Oh, yeah, what time is that?
No.
Meeting Saturday.
Thursday,
Thursday the third?
Thursday, the 3rd. Oh, it's court night. Surely they'll be done by 6, you think?
Who's that?
Court, we have court that night,
Oh,
and we had a jury last time, sure did.
Yeah, Hanson got paid for jury duty.
did he? Really?
What was wrong with Thursday? Thursday was a no?
Thursday, yeah, y'all was talking about the district court, or something, right?
Oh, Tuesday. I was thinking Tuesday. Okay. Get tired of meeting in the conference room.
What day is that?
Tuesday the first. Be tough for me, I mean, I'll be skidding on 2 wheels. From Plano. What?
What day?
Tuesday?
It shouldn't be a long meeting.
What?
I can do any day next week.
Tuesday nights. I said that I did that. I don't know, library board meeting on Tuesday?
It's on. Also,
Can we?
You want to do 6:30 on Thursday and court will be over? That way it's easier for you to get here.
Thursday's easy for me,
Okay,
yeah. Whatever.
I want to try that 6:30 on Thursday
Shouldn't be too awful long.
on
What's
court.
that famous last word? It shouldn't be too awful long.
Well, you'll be considering
Tax rate.
the tax rate. We'll have to set the public hearing and that you'll have to set the public hearing for the budget. There's a number of, there's a whole list. It's a recorded vote. And you'll have to reconsider those items that you tabled tonight. So we'll have to have LaShondra. No, we had the public hearing. No, we did the public hearings tonight, so now they can consider it. They just table it.
That's right.
Yeah. I don't think so. I asked Patricia that you've already had the public hearings. She said that's why she wanted to get through all of them so that we could do it later. I'll ask her about it, but I think you can. And we'll ask one more time if you have any projects. That'll give you some time to think about it. You got $1 million here. Is there something you want to do? Is there something you see? Do you want to put a contingency fund in the administration budget? Do you want to earmark it for something else? I was asking about parks, but if we put it in parks, is it still restricted? I don't want to intermingle unrestricted and restricted, never mind. We're not recommending any debt, so leaving it where it's at is.
Yeah.
That's a consideration for you. We'll make that note. Or half, even if you wanted to do half of them, half and half. Yeah. Everybody's good. 6:30 Thursday. You're good. 6:30 Thursday.
So it's Thursday at 6:30.
I'm gonna try.
6:30.
6:30 is fine. Tax rate, those things from tonight. You want to do a little workshop at the beginning so you can talk about the tax rate again and talk about fleet replacement. We do need to do that. That way you can talk about fleet replacement. We can have some information for you on that, on revenue streams. And you good with that, Mayor? We'll just do a little workshop at the beginning.
Well, should we do the 10 through 13 at the very beginning?
That's, yeah. 10 through 13 at the very beginning, and then have a workshop, and then back to vote on the tax rate and set the public hearing.
Because then if the landowner comes and.
They don't have to sit there.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. We are going to invite them, correct? And the planner. Do you have any questions for us that are outstanding? If you think of anything, please let us know. I'm really excited about the healthcare. I think that's going to be a positive for our employees. I think they'll really like it. I hope. You never know. I compared it with 5 other cities, and we are either right at the sweet spot or we're lower. There was only one city that was lower than us. And I'll tell you what else I noticed. Of the 5 cities I checked, 3 of them charge their employees some amount of money, somewhere between 30 and 58 for employee only. So I thought that was strange. I mean, that's not a lot. $58 is not a lot for you to send a message to your employee. We're paying all of your health care premium. I mean, I would try to make that up somehow. Especially the rates I saw were really low. The other rates were really low. I'm a big believer in at least the employee only. Don't have anything. Oh, I did forget. I apologize. Brittany could not be here tonight. She has strep throat. I hope she gets better soon. She said, we talked in staff meeting the other day about projects. We've been trying to piecemeal her projects out through the budget process. We put a couple in this year, but I really want her to come on Thursday and tell you the things that she needs, because you may want to spend some of this excess funds, some of the reserve. She needs all of her, they're replacing single ceiling tiles that are drooping, but then they don't match. All of her ceiling fans need to be replaced, all of her ceiling tiles, all of the carpet. The carpet, I don't know that the carpet's original to the building. How old is that building? So the carpet's original. We have had it cleaned a couple of times. But she wants to talk to you also. We learned some things about her collection development that we didn't know. She's been trying to push more towards the digital, but they don't own, when they do collection development and they get a digital copy, they don't own it. So they have to give it back. If it's not being used, they have to give it back. It's not like a book they can put on the shelf and it might come back into style again. It's just gone. They have to give it back and get new stuff, and they have to pay for it. And I think she said a lot of her collection development was loans or something like that. I want her to explain it. Don't put words in her mouth. But we talked about that the other day in staff meeting, and I really wanted her to visit with you and tell you about those things, because if we could do a small project for her, at least to get the ceiling tiles changed out, the ceiling fans, we had a meeting over there the other day. They're drooping. They're terrible. And maybe do some soundproofing. I would like to do some soundproofing in the community center. If we could put some soundproofing on the walls, it would make that such a nicer place. Just that simple thing would knock down the reverberation in that room and it would be nice. So I'll let her talk to you about it. I told her, she apologized for not being here. I said I would mention it to you and I'm glad I thought about it because I would have felt bad that I didn't tell you about it. So I'll have her come on Thursday and tell you about those things.
Motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned.
I would say